Hi, this is Carolyn, and this is a video in which I explore the shelf paper method on the Gelli plate a little bit more with these three pieces. If you haven't seen the last shelf paper Gelli plate video, then have a look at this one here. It's in my playlist on YouTube. So to start this one, I've transferred some charcoal scribbles onto the Gelli plate just by scribbling on some newsprint, inverting it onto the Gelli plate, rubbing it and transferring the charcoal scribbles. This just adds interest to this particular layer. When I use this charcoal scribbles, I seal it with a one-way roll. If you go back and forth in the first roll, then you smudge the charcoal. But after that, you can obviously roll any way you like. And then pick it up, and that gives that first layer a little bit of interest. So this is a layering method in which you print each layer onto the paper. You have to let each layer dry before you put the next layer of shelf paper on. You don't probably even need a Gelli plate. I mean, you could paint over the shelf paper, or you could transfer from something else like a silicone mat or a piece of glass. Playing with this method presents a great opportunity to use up all your paint. You really don't need any quality paint to do this. I use a lot of student grade paint, cheap paint I get at markets or Value Village or garage sale. If you were to do this with a school group, tempera paint would probably work. It doesn't work for Gelli printing in general, of course, because the acrylic plate doesn't really release tempera paint, but all you need is paint cover for this method with the shelf paper, so tempera paint would probably work. I usually use 140-pound Cansen's mixed media paper. Obviously, I'm not going for an archival quality here. You can use budget papers. Craft weight paper works perfectly. If you're really trying to save, then use the back of wrapping paper. You don't need to wait at all. You can pull the paper up right away. You're seeing it in real time here. You can see that the shelf paper and the art paper pick the paint up differently, so that leaves an interesting ghost on the plate that you can use or you can wipe off. I usually pick them up with another layer and lay the new ones off to the side. So I am making 3 more layers, and I'll pick it up. And then comes the exciting part. You can take the shelf paper off. The shelf paper can be tricky to get off. The deeper it is, the more stuck it is, as you can see here. You'll see in the next example that I make that I use a hairdryer to get the paper off. So there's the first one from my big Gelli plate. And here's an example of a second one that I've made, so you know how I've made the layers now. And you can see me taking off the shelf paper with a little satay stick that, you know, one of those little wooden sticks that's used for the barbecue, so I can lift the edges. And when the paper gets stuck, I will use a hairdryer to loosen the adhesive. So having gone through this a couple of times, I learned a few things, one of which is that I like to start with the light or bright layers first. I've gotten into the habit of writing out the colors I'm going to use in order, because sometimes when I'm busy with the Gelli plate and I'm just having fun, I lose my mind, so to speak. I don't seem to be very intentional. And from what I see in other people when I'm teaching, I think that's pretty common. There's a lot going on when you're Gelli printing. So if you do have, you know, an idea of what you'd like to do, then maybe make yourself a few notes for the steps you intend to take. Speaking of which, I'll be teaching a real life course on a weekend in February in 2026. You can have a look at my Instagram to stay updated on that, and I will also put the details on my website. So here you can see the yellow background being pulled up, and you'll see that there's some orange splatters on it. You saw me put them on before. It's just the background layer. There are no shelf paper masks on here yet. You can decorate all your layers with patterns, printing. You can make designs with a fork, make lines, rake lines through it. You can splatter, whatever you like. Anything you would usually do on your jelly plate, you can do for each layer. I try to keep my layers very analogous, warm or cool. Otherwise, so far, I haven't had much luck getting a really great image because it gets too busy. There's too much going on. But I may get there. I'm just learning this. And I do tend to start with a lot of control when I'm first learning a sequence or a method. So I'm making sure that I have a lot of variety in my sizes and shapes because that keeps things a little bit interesting. And I'm trying to remember that I want to spread each color out across the page so that in the final painting it shows up, around the composition. So here I'll put the next layer of paint on the plate, and I'm going to use an orange, which is a little darker than the yellow, but not as dark as the red that I'm going to use or the blue that I'll be using after that. I also try to make my paints more and more opaque, and there are several tricky ways you can do that. One is to mix your paint colors with titanium white, and then they will become more opaque. So that's another way you could maybe try to use tinted paints last. Just experiment with that. So here goes another layer, and just so you can get the hang of it, this is in real time, this bit. I do cut some out, otherwise the video would be so long. Each painting like this, this last one took me about 3 hours, the others took me about 2 hours, because you're cutting the shelf paper, you're waiting for the paint to dry, you're coming up with ideas, it takes a while as well. So this is a nice, slow, relaxing process. And this is a 16-inch by 20-inch jelly plate from Gelli Arts. It's not going to take as long, of course, if you use a smaller plate. So here we go with the red layer. And this one, again, is a bit more opaque and, of course, darker than the previous layers. If you look at red in black and white photos, it will almost always turn up as black. So it's a very intense color, very dark. Doesn't throw back a lot of light. And again, just showing you in real time. Doesn't take very long. You just want to cover the paper. The shelf paper is masking the red from the orange this time. And I just kept adding layers, a light blue one, a dark blue one. You can add as many layers as you like, I think. You can even try going on top with a tint again if you use titanium white. Just play with it. I'm going for sort of a Yayoi Kusama vibe, so I decided I'd put in some little white things like dots using a stencil and a brush just before I peeled the paper off. Peeling the paper off is always the most fun. So I'll likely be exploring this process a little bit more. I rather like the control and I like the effect. I like the colors, but it is a lot of work. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. I always answer and respond to comments. And if you like this video, please subscribe. Subscriptions are always helpful. Hit the like button. There's a great jelly plate community of artists on the Learn Jelly Plate Printing Facebook group where you can post your work and get responses. Let's get together on Instagram. You follow me, I'll follow you. And show me what you do.